Wow, that was very interesting. But at that time, was the incidence of cardiovascular disease among the Inuit population very much lower than the incidence of cardiovascular disease in the, let's say, Danish population?
So factor between 5 and 10 in incidence rate. So they were far lower. Actually, the diagnosis acute myocardial infarction wasn't really done in Greenland at that time. Whether that was due to the doctors neglected the possibility. Of course, these data were not solid, but they gave rise to studies in Western population where we could prolong bleeding time by and hinder thrombotic tendency by adding omega-3 long chain to our diet. Of course, we thought we have found the explanation. By following the studies and doing science ourselves over the next many years, it's 40 or more or 50 years since, we of course found out that this was just one of the possible explanations. There's a lot of other metabolic effects of omega-3 fatty acids as there is of omega-6 fatty acids in our body that just blood clotting.
Right. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but how high was actually the EPA and DHA concentration in the blood of the Inuit population at that time compared to the concentration you would find, for example, in the Danish population?
The factor was, as I remembered, between 7 and 10. We measured omega-3s in cholesterol esters, in triglycerides, and in phospholipids in the blood. And from this, you can compute an index.
Yes. Now, if you look back at your many years of experience, are any of the omega-3 fatty acids like the EPA, the DHA, or the DPA more important for our body and for our health?
And it's, to me, ridiculous to weigh them against each other. I mean, is vitamin A more necessary than vitamin D? No, they're both necessary, full stop. Be on a broader or narrower range of processes. But for me, as a nutritionist, EPA, DHA, and possibly also DPA are essential components in our diet, in our food, and have essential roles to play in our biochemistry, biology, and you cannot outweigh the one against the other. You can do it if you look at specific issues. Triglycerides, are the one a bit better than the other to lower triglycerides? Yes, it is, but then again, in our brains, the only long chain we find is DHA. But if you look at the association between the fatty acids and depression tendency, it's EPA that comes up with the highest relation. So biology isn't that simple.
Yes, I tend to agree. You know, in the past I had discussions with many professionals in this field, and some of the professionals claim that the DHA might be better than the EPA because DHA can be converted by a body back into EPA, as EPA is only converted back to DHA in a very, very small ratio. But I generally do agree that our body needs all of them. Yes, you're right.
You should. Of course you should. And again, I've heard this, is vitamin D more important than vitamin A? No, they're both important. Full stop. Is EPA more important than DHA or vice versa? No, they're both important. Yeah. There are some drug producers that do not agree, but that's their business. That's not science.
Yes. I agree. It goes very strongly into marketing and to pure business interests over there. Yes. Okay, so let's come to a new question now. As you know, in our daily food, the omega-3 fatty acids usually appear in the form of triglyceride. But if we go to the food supplements on the market and also to the pharma drugs, well, you have different forms. So you have also the triglycerides, but you also have, for example, ethyl esters, and also in some cases free fatty acids. What is your opinion on these three different forms of omega-3 fatty acids?
The major 90-something% is triglycerides. So we get the major part of our fatty acids, also the essential fatty acids, the omega-6 and the omega-3 family, from triglycerides in our diet. And taken as a meal, 95% of triglycerides are absorbed. So when a dealer says our product is 10 times more absorbable than triglycerides, then he has to say that it is absorbed by 950%, which is a generation of fatty acids in the intestine. Well, it's just ridiculous. But I said in a meal, because when you have to absorb fat, you have to have it in an amount that triggers the enzyme production, the fatty acid, the acid production in the ventriculum, in the gut, and the absorption process initiated by a certain amount. So along with the meal, I take that triglycerides are just fine. And of course, their derivatives, mono or diglycerides and free fatty acids, which are products that are generated in the intestine on the normal absorption, is just as good. The only form that doesn't absorb that well is ethyl esters, because our lipases in the intestine for splitting the component does not fit well with the ethyl ester form. So the ethyl ester is something lesser absorbed, but then you just have to eat some more.
Yes, well, it's amazing then to actually think that the only so far approved pharmaceutical drugs, omega-3 pharmaceutical drugs like Lovasa or Macoa or Vasepa, are actually all in the ethyl ester form, right? So they are all in the, if you like to say, in the not so bioavailable form.
That's again because you can up concentrate it in that form. So you get a higher amount per gram than in other forms, say for a partly lower absorbability. So yeah.
Yes, although, you know, I come out of the production. I've been working over 30 years on the production of highly concentrated omega-3 fatty acids. And there is a way of reconverting the concentrated ethyl ester form back into the triglyceride form. That is usually called the reconstituted triglycerides, or RTGs. Now, truth is, it is an additional production step which makes the product a little bit more expensive, roughly around 20%. However, with respect to bioavailability and quality of the product, I think it's really worth it. There is a possibility to offer high concentrated omega-3 products, supplements, in a high bioavailable form. But then the product needs to be reconverted. So first of all, concentrated in the ethyl ester form, and then reconverted to the RTG form.